Let's start today with a scenario.
Okay.
So you wake up, you check your phone, you reply to some emails, and I know I do this. Maybe you agonize for 20 solid minutes over the exact phrasing of a message to your boss or a client.
Oh, yeah. Because you want it to sound just right.
Exactly. You want to sound smart.
Yep.
And, you go to a job you're pretty good at, you buy the things you think you're supposed to own, you keep up with the news so you sound smart at dinner parties.
Yeah.
And yet, underneath all of that, there is this quiet, lingering exhaustion, like this feeling of running incredibly fast on a treadmill, but somehow barely staying in place. So here is the really uncomfortable, heavy-hitting question driving our deep dive today.
Let's hear it.
Why do you care so much about other people's opinions, yet still feel like you're struggling to get ahead in life?
I mean, that exhaustion is so universal. It's the feeling of pouring your most precious resources, like your time, your sanity, your physical energy, into a system that is literally designed from the ground up to keep you anxious. You're burning all this fuel, but your engine is fundamentally misaligned.
And realigning that engine is exactly our mission today. We are looking at excerpts from the Almanack of Naval Ravikant. It's this amazing compilation of wisdom from the Silicon Valley investor and philosopher.
It's a great text.
It really is. And what we are going to do today is basically shatter the illusion of the daily rat race. We're going to expose the two ultimate games that are driving human society, which are wealth creation and status games.
And the stakes here are massive for you, the listener.
Yeah.
Because if you're feeling that constant burnout we just talked about, it means you're unconsciously playing the completely wrong game.
Wow, yeah.
So the goal today is to help you figure out which game you're actually playing and how to entirely rewrite the rules of your life.
Okay, so before we can even talk about building a good life, we have to understand this invisible game that's keeping people stuck. So what exactly is the status game?
Right. Well, to understand the status game, you really have to look at evolutionary biology. Status is simply your ranking in the social hierarchy. And it's a very old, primitive game.
Yeah.
Like dating back to our days in monkey tribes. In that environment, knowing who was number one, who was number two, who was number three, it wasn't just, a matter of ego.
It was survival.
Exactly. Who gets to eat first? Who gets the safest place to sleep? We are biologically hardwired to constantly scan our environment and figure out where we rank.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because I think it's human nature to want respect and standing, right? But why does this specific game make people so miserable today?
Because of the mechanics of how it works. Status is what we call a zero-sum game.
Meaning there's a fixed amount of it.
Exactly. The slots are fixed. So for person number 3 to move up to the number 2 slot, person number 2 absolutely must be pushed down.
Ah, I see.
There's just no other way. To win at a status game, you have to put somebody else down. Politics and sports are prime examples of this.
Okay, so playing the status game is basically a lifelong, high-stakes version of musical chairs. Like, there's only one seat left, and to get it, you literally have to shove someone else to the floor.
That's a great analogy. Or think of it like, imagine a torrential downpour, and there is only one tiny umbrella.
Oh, man.
The only way you stay dry is by shoving me out into the freezing rain. We can't share it. Because it's zero-sum, it inevitably turns you into an angry, combative person.
Because you're constantly fighting.
Right. You are constantly fighting to elevate yourself and the people you like by tearing others down. And what's fascinating here is that you can spend your whole life climbing this ladder.
Just clawing your way up.
Yeah, only to realize you are fighting a never-ending war that brings no actual peace or freedom.
Which brings up a really interesting contradiction. If the status game is so toxic, why do so many people passionately defend it? And why do they attack the people who are trying to build actual wealth?
This is where we get into a really deep psychological trap. Deep down, many people realize that money solves money problems, right? But they harbor this secret belief that they personally can't make it.
Interesting. So they feel like they can't win the money game.
Exactly. So because they feel they can't win it, they attack the entire enterprise of wealth creation. They say things like, making money is evil.
Have you ever noticed how the loudest critics of success are often just trying to artificially inflate their own egos?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like the fox calling the grapes sour, but then demanding a moral medal for not eating them.
Yes, and the text calls this phenomenon moral kidnapping. In reality, these critics are secretly playing the status game.
Oh, wait, so they're still playing a game.
Totally. They gain social status by attacking wealth creators. They're attempting to elevate their own social class through moral superiority by saying, I don't need money, I'm above it.
That is profound hypocrisy.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these attackers are playing a brutal zero-sum game, but it's disguised as morality. And the text has a huge warning here. If you secretly despise wealth, it will elude you.
Because you're subconsciously pushing it away.
Exactly. You can't acquire something you fundamentally resent. So here's a direct challenge for you, the listener. Are you playing a game of moral kidnapping to feel better about your rank? Or are you actually trying to improve your life?
That's a gut punch. So what does this all mean? It really comes down to this. Are you creating value in a positive-sum game? Or are you just fighting for a ranking in a zero-sum game?
Right.
So if I'm the listener and I want to stop fighting for status and start building wealth, how do I actually detach from the opinions of the crowd? What is the alternative?
Well, the alternative is wealth creation. But to play that game, we have to clarify what wealth actually is, because it is fundamentally different from money.
Hold on, I need to pause you there, because I think most people use money and wealth totally interchangeably.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
What's the actual difference?
Okay, so money is how we transfer wealth. Money is basically social IOUs. It's a piece of paper that says you did something valuable society owes you. But wealth is having assets that earn while you sleep.
Assets that earn while you sleep, like what?
Like factories, robots, computer code, media. Wealth is a working machine. And the most important distinction is that, unlike status, wealth creation is a positive-sum game.
Okay, so positive-sum meaning we're not fighting over the umbrella anymore?
Right. It's an evolutionarily recent concept. We are baking a bigger pie together, not just cutting up the same small pie. If I write a software program that helps your business, I get wealthy, you get wealthy, everyone wins.
Okay, but how does an average person do that?
Society will pay you for giving it what it wants, but doesn't yet know how to get at scale.
That sounds really hard.
It is, which is why you must arm yourself with three things: specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage.
Let's start with specific knowledge. What is that?
It's knowledge you cannot be trained for. If society can train you, it can train someone else to replace you.
So where do you get it?
You find it through your genuine, innate curiosity. Specific knowledge feels like play to you, but it looks like grueling work to everyone else.
Oh, I love that. So it's about escaping competition through authenticity.
Exactly. No one can compete with you on being you. When you focus on your authentic curiosities, you stop looking at what the herd is doing. You become a perpetual learner.
Okay, so that's specific knowledge. What about accountability?
That means taking risks under your own name. When you succeed, society rewards you. When you fail, you bear the brunt of it.
That's a little scary, taking all that risk publicly.
It is, but it's how you get the third piece, leverage. And in the modern world, code and media are the ultimate permissionless leverage.
Permissionless leverage. So I don't need anyone's permission to write a blog post or code an app.
Right. You don't need a boss to say yes. You don't need a gatekeeper. You build leverage that works for you while you sleep.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. You can't play this positive-sum wealth game entirely alone, right? Eventually, you have to work with other people.
Yes, but you have to ruthlessly curate who you play it with. Naval's rule is very strict here. Ignore people playing status games.
Yeah.
Period.
Just completely ignore them.
Completely. You have to pick an industry where you can play long-term games with long-term people.
Long-term games. We usually only hear about that with, like, compound interest in a bank account.
But all the returns in life, whether in wealth, relationships, or knowledge, come from compound interest. And to get that compounding, you must pick business partners with three specific traits.
Which are?
High intelligence, high energy, and above all, absolute integrity. Honesty.
That makes sense. If they're smart and energetic but dishonest, they're just a highly effective thief.
Exactly. They will burn you, and the compounding stops. And you also have to avoid cynics and pessimists. Their beliefs are self-fulfilling. If you partner with a pessimist, they will drag the whole project down.
There's a great example of this compounding trust in the source material with the investor Elad Gil.
Oh yes, that's a perfect example.
Right. Naval says he sends Elad every single deal he finds because Elad goes out of his way, to be fair. If there's an extra cost, Elad pays it out of pocket. He rounds off in Naval's favor.
And think about what that does over a decade. That is how trust compounds. ELAD isn't fighting for every last penny like it's a zero-sum game.
It's so liberating when you think about it. You don't have to network with everyone. You don't have to fight in the Vanity Fair of social media. It's the difference between planting an orchard with a dedicated team versus fighting a mob every single day for a single apple.
That's beautifully put. Intentions don't really matter in this game, actions do. When you find those rare, high-intelligence, high-energy, completely honest partners, you invest deeply.
Because you're playing a different game now.
Right. In a short-term game, everyone is trying to make themselves rich. But in a long-term game, everyone is making each other rich.
Wow.
And this raises an important question for you, the listener. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they compounding your growth, or are they draining your energy in a status war?
That really is the ultimate choice facing the listener, isn't it? Let's summarize this because the contrast is so stark.
It really is.
You can stay on the hedonic treadmill, you can worry about society's expectations, get angry at people on the internet, and fight a zero-sum status game that literally guarantees misery.
Because you always have to push someone else down.
Right. Or you can ignore the noise. You can follow your authentic curiosity, find brilliant and honest long-term partners, and let the magic of compound interest build true wealth and freedom.
Exactly. And I want to leave the listener with a final thought to ponder.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine if you were the only person left on Earth tomorrow.
Okay, so absolutely no one around to impress.
Right. No one to rank yourself against, zero status to be gained. If that happened, what is the very first thing you would choose to build or learn just for the sheer joy of it?
Man, that really changes the perspective. Stop caring about the crowd, find what feels like play to you, and start building your orchard. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.